Welcome. Our discussion today is understanding the 5 parts of emotional intelligence. And joining me in this discussion is Dr. Rajiv Tony Juneja, a practicing psychiatrist. Dr. Juneja, thank you so much for joining us. Could you please help us understand what exactly is meant first by emotional intelligence?
So emotional intelligence, essentially, it has 4 components: self-awareness, social awareness, relationship management, and self-management. So what I mean by that, let's look at that a little bit. So self-awareness, how aware am I of myself, my responses, my emotions, my strengths, my weaknesses? Obviously, you can imagine the more aware you are of where your strengths and weaknesses are, the better you're able to function.
Absolutely.
Right? The more aware you are of your emotional responses as you're moving through the day, the more effective you can be. Right? So that's self-awareness. Social awareness is really being aware of other people's emotions and being able to sense them. So saying, you know, it may not be the right time to go approach him or her to address a certain situation. Right? So self-awareness, social awareness. Relationship management, you can imagine, is impacted by how aware you are of yourself or others. Right? So conflict resolution. Right? People have a lot of problems with communication and get locked up and very frustrated because they're not really aware of the elements that are going into their approach and how they're approaching the situation. So the more emotionally intelligent you are, the more effective you can be through your day.
And Dr. Juneja, it's understanding that stage in your life, too, of where you are emotionally and really connecting to understanding that person. Whether we're talking about children all the way through to our older adults and the processing of their emotions and being self-aware, because we tend to react emotionally, and it's really taking an assessment of where you are to center yourself. Because if you are in a very stressful situation, how are you responding?
That's right, and that's where self-awareness is key. You know, so often I will ask my patients, you know, when I'm trying to teach them aspects of self-awareness, you know, can you imagine if I was reactive as I walk through, you know, do my work through the day? You know, how effective would that be? And most of them can see, oh, it wouldn't be effective at all. I say, exactly. So you have to be able to hold your emotions at bay, to be able to look and understand them instead of just reacting, being impulsive. Because being impulsive in general leads to bad decisions.
Now, Dr. Juneja, when we think about all the parts to emotional intelligence that you've described, the effects that it has on your overall health and how you are getting on, you know, in your own wellness and the environment how much of an effect you can have on your own environment, and then ultimately how you are feeling inside is key, and trying to provide some tools to our community and helping one to come to a space, whether it is through self-awareness or, you know, just being a part of what you're thinking and feeling, and within your relationships, because as we addressed, the relationships are key into how we're thinking and feeling as well.
Yeah, and the 2 things you said just now were the environment and how we're reacting to the environment, and instead of reacting, can we respond? So a lot of times I will say, you know, tell individuals, we want to respond, we don't want to react. But in order to not react, we need to be able to have that, you know, step back approach where you're really aware of how am I feeling right now going into this situation, what's going on around me. So you're aware of the environment, and therefore you can kind of determine what will the outcome of the situation be.
It's almost like you know inside, like your body does give you some signs or feelings, and if that sometimes it's described as people are tensing up. If you notice that you're tensing up, or how you're breathing, and those kind of physiological responses to stressful situations or your environment, or even relationships. Again, we get back to the relationship part because it's key of who we are as human beings.
day-to-day life, absolutely.
And
when I was just thinking about, like, say, if some, you know, a couple has an argument in the morning, and now those individuals go off to work and they have a meeting and they find themselves frustrated during the meeting. Now, is it about the meeting, Or is it about the argument that they had in the morning? And more than likely, it's probably some remnant of what happened earlier in the morning. So it's important now to be aware of that. Wow, I'm frustrated from that situation, but I need to be present for this meeting. Aside from that, I need to leave those emotions aside because they're not relevant right now. Versus going off on everybody at the meeting. Now again, how effective is the meeting going to be?
And that takes practice, Dr. Janesha,
It does
does it
take
not?
practice.
It's
It
not
does take
something that
practice.
we can instill
And you know what?
immediately.
But that's a great point, which is emotional intelligence is different than the IQ or intelligent quotient that people talk about, which is really genetically determined. EQ, the emotional quotient, you can increase. You can learn skills, and that's the exciting thing about it. That's actually one reason I really like talking about EI, is that it is something you can learn. I wasn't born with it. But over the years, I've gotten very good at it because I practice every single day. I'm very aware of my environment to the point where even if somebody, moves a pen across, while they're talking, I notice it. Now, I may not comment on it, right? But it's important to notice what's going on around you.
And it's being very self-aware of your whole situation and what you're experiencing.
Yes.
Now, Dr. Janesha, as we wrap up our understanding of the 5 parts of emotional intelligence, how does motivation have a role in reaching our emotional intelligence?
Well, I think motivation is something that is very important to be able to access because I think it's connected to hope. Because I think when we find ourselves feeling down or feeling, upset, maybe not about having taken a risk and talked to the boss about a raise, that we do have to kind of climb back up on the horse. It reminds me of a story actually in the last Winter Olympics that one of the downhill races, there was a very icy bottom, and all 3 of the gold, silver, and bronze winners actually had fallen at the bottom. But what it came down to of who took which place is who got up the fastest. So we need to get back up, and you have to access that place of motivation. Now, if you're having a hard time, you got to reach out for support. I think psychotherapy or having a therapeutic relationship is very effective. Having a role model is seen to be one of the most effective components of resilience. So having somebody that you look up to and going and talking to him or her.
Excellent advice, Dr. Janesha. It's, again, self-empowering to really come to know what you're thinking, what you're feeling in the environment in which you live, and then to do the best you can to improve your emotional intelligence.
Yes.
Thank you so much for the information.
You're welcome.
For more information on the 5 parts of emotional intelligence, please log into Lasting Lifestyles at www.lastinglifestyles.net. Thank you so much.